Today we are learning to graph linear equations using tables. In a previous video, I already showed how to do this, but today we're going to do it a little bit faster and we're going to learn what to do if we have some weird numbers in the equation. Now that we know how to find the slope of a line, we need to know how to graph a line if we are given its equation. We're actually going to be learning linear equations. Those are equations of lines and their graphs. Forwards and backwards. We're going to learn how to graph them. We're going to learn how to use them to solve problems, all sorts of things. Graphing linear equations can be a little tedious, but it's easy as long as we are careful. However, if you are entering something wrong into your calculator, or you add something wrong, or you just counted 6 squares instead of 5, it's not going to look right. So do be careful. Lines are the simplest type of graph, and we will learn several techniques for graphing linear equations. There's actually one that takes a little less time that we're going to learn here later on. We will start out by using a table. It is important to remember that you can graph nearly any equation using an XY table. I feel like all of my students forget this, but any equation that you look and it says y equals, you can make a table for it and figure out what its graph looks like. Here's how you do it. You choose or are given the x's, and then we find the y's. Then we need to make sure that we have our xy pairs. We find those on the table, and we're able to graph them on the graph. Then we plot the points on the line, and we're going to connect them with a line that is extended in both directions, and it has arrows at the ends. That way we know that that line goes on forever, because you really could plug in anything for x and get all sorts of different numbers for y. Let's go ahead and do this example. Yesterday, I showed you how to do this with a big table, and that table looked kind of like this. There was an x, and then there was a y equals with the equation in it, and then there was a y, and then there was this ordered pair xy. Well, once you get really good, you can do all this stuff in your head or in the calculator, and you don't really need this ordered pair because you can just read it by reading xy right there. So really we only need 2 columns of our table, so that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. So we have our x's and we're going to choose them. It's usually a good idea to pick a few negatives, a few positives, and to always pick 0. That way your graph is nice and centered. I'm going to pick -1 as my other negative and 0, and then 2 as my other positive. Now, how do I get my y's? You were given its formula right here. So you just put your x's in for x, and whatever comes out will be y. For the first couple, it might be nice to just write the equation to help you out. Y equals 2 times, what was our x? -3 minus 4. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and plug that into my calculator. 2 times -3 minus 4 is -10. Okay, then for this one, my equation was y equals 2x minus 4, so I'm going to put 2 times -1 minus 4. It helps if you always put parentheses in, that way it makes sure that it multiplies, and then I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. Now you may notice it's already in my calculator, so I'm just going to go to the parentheses and change that and make it -1 instead. Now what if I know I'm going to enter the same thing, I'm just going to change the number inside the parentheses every time. So I'm just going to go do that and stop writing this stuff off to the side. Let's go over here and put 0 in. That'll be -4. Oh, excuse me. Okay, let's go ahead and put 2 in. My calculator says it's 0. And then let's go ahead and put 5 in. And that's 6. Now, if you find that you often get these and they don't quite graph as a line, it might be a good idea to pick numbers that are in consecutive order. So like -3, -1, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. That way you can tell if it's going in a pattern, you did it right. Okay, let's go ahead and graph these on my graph. And this reads just like an ordered pair, x, y. So we're going to put -3 on the x-axis. The x1, remember, is the sideways one. and then negative 10 on the y-axis. So negative 3, and then I need to go to negative 10, and then I'm going to find where those lines intersect. That's my point. Okay, negative 1, negative 6, negative 1, negative 6. Done. 0, negative 4, 2, 0. And then 5, 6. Now remember, if it doesn't look like it's coming out as a line, it's not the equation's fault. You made a mistake. All these equations will come out as straight lines. If it doesn't come out as a straight line, you need to check your work and go back and try again. Then we connected it and drew our arrows, and it was a straight line, so we did it correctly. Here's a few things that you should remember. A graph is a picture of all the points that work in the equation. If a point works in the equation, then it's on the line. If a point is on the graph, then it works in the equation. So what's great about this line, remember, you could plug anything in for x and get out numbers for y. And that's a little tedious to do for like all of the numbers. It's not just a little tedious, it would take forever. But this line, I can just go to it and be like, all right, I'm gonna put a line there. That works for the equation. Excuse me, I'm gonna put a point there. That works in the equation. Even these ones that are like in between stuff, those work in the equation too. So that's the reason why you need to connect the dots into a line, because it's representing all the possible values x and y that will work in the equation. We're going to go ahead and use a number that's a little rougher. We're going to do y equals negative 1/4 x plus 1. When you're doing ones like these that have fractions, try to pick numbers that will be easy to evaluate. Now let's think about this. Whatever number I put in for x, it's going to end up having negative 1/4 multiplied by it. This means that it's going to divide by 4. So I should pick multiples of 4. That way it will be easier to evaluate. Okay, I'm going to say this in another way. Whatever the denominator is, whatever this number is, make sure that the x values you choose should be multiples of that. So x is a multiple of 4. That way, it'll divide by 4, but it'll get you a nice pretty number. All right, let's go ahead and pick some numbers. 0 always works, so always choose 0. But we're going to pick our multiples of 4. So I got negative 8, negative 4, 0, 4, and 8. Because our graph only goes to negative 10 and 10, try and make it so that your numbers are all pretty close to 0. So I can't pick 12 and graph it very easy. Okay, I'm going to write out my equation to figure this one out first. Okay, so I need y equals negative 1/4 times negative 8 plus 1. Okay, negative 1/4 times negative 8. And what was my, what does it add? Plus 1. Okay, plus 1. All right, that equals 3. Now, you could also do this in your head, but it's like dividing by 4. So it's like negative 8 divided by 4 by like a negative 4. So that's 2 plus 1. Okay, I did it right. Now, remember, you could just go back in your calculator and put everything in the parentheses where you put that negative 8. It's really important that you entered this in correctly with your parentheses around the x, though, because otherwise you're going to come up with the wrong answer. 0. Oh, I missed what that was. 1. Okay. Hey guys, look, I'm seeing a pattern. It goes 3, 2, 1. I think the next one will be 0. This is 4, 0. Haha. And what do you guess the other one is? I think it's going to be negative 1. We put in an 8 where it said. Okay, that's negative 1. Do you see how I did that really super fast? If you are having trouble with this part, it might be best to just rewrite it like this every time. But that takes a while. So if you can figure out the shortcut, do the shortcut. Okay, we're going to graph all these pairs on our xy plane. I'm going to go to negative 8, 3. Negative 8, remember the first number is horizontally. Then 3, there. Then negative 4, 2, there. Oh, this is kind of fun because it looks like 0, 1. Like it goes down and then over 4 every time. So down 1 over 4. And then 8, negative 1. Yeah, that's a pretty nice straight line. Oh, I missed that dot. So if your straight line, if you don't have a ruler, like I don't have a ruler, if your straight line looks a little off, but you plotted all your points correctly, that's okay. All right, hopefully that helps you out. Good luck.